Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. There's online.Scott selections here for Friday, November 25th. For again today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a loss in the NFL with the Patriots +3 at -110 on PointsBet. Unfortunately for us, the game was really a coin flip all the way through, and then a couple of bad breaks went our way, and the Patriots ended up losing by 7. You had a kickoff return touchdown for Minnesota. You had an overturned touchdown by Henry, which was ruled an incomplete pass after review, which I don't agree with. I feel like most people don't. I thought the call in the field should have stood. There wasn't really enough to overturn it. But either way, that took 4 extra points off the board. And then you also had the running into the punter penalty while Minnesota was trying to punt midway through the fourth quarter, which resulted in a longer drive and eventually a touchdown for Minnesota. So when you factor in those 3 plays, that's roughly a 17 or 18 point swing. And yeah, New England lost by 7. So when you give away that many free points, you're going to end up just losing the game, and that's exactly what happened. But New England, unlike most Belichick games or just overall seasons, just had a lot of really stupid penalties, a lot of really dumb special teams plays, even on the final drive. I'm not saying Mac Jones would have scored or led them to a touchdown anyway, but they fielded the punt at the 1-yard line when they could have just gotten the ball at the 25 if they took a touchback. A lot of really just dumb plays by New England, uncharacteristically. But either way, shout out to Cousins, though. He was actually very good on primetime for once. New England's defense really got torched for the entire game. Jefferson went nuts, but New England had a lot of chances to cover and potentially win the game outright. Did not do so as they lost by 7. So look for a bounce back winner here on Friday. But for today's play, they're going to pivot and talk about the NFL once again. But on Sunday, we'll get a matchup between the Raiders and the Seahawks taking place on Sunday at 4 p.m. And for this matchup, going to take Seattle -3.5 at -110 on DraftKings. Time recording of 10:30 a.m. on Friday Eastern time. Covered reasons why I like the Seahawks -3.5 in the spot. First reason, I really like the scheduling spot for Seattle. The Raiders had a very tough overtime win against the Broncos. Meanwhile, Seattle did not play following their international game against the Buccaneers. They had a week off and were able to game plan for the Raiders, maybe even for 2 weeks. And I do think their extra rest will definitely pay dividends for Seattle at home. The Raiders, I just said, won on the road against Denver. Congrats. I mean, Denver is one of the worst teams in the league as well, and the Raiders needed overtime to beat them. It was also an important win for the Raiders because that was their first road win of the season. The Raiders are 1-5 straight up on the highway, so I don't exactly trust the Raiders to travel well here against a very underrated Seattle team. But the Seahawks are 3-1 straight up at home. We know the 12th man is very important to the Seahawks as they have one of the best home field advantages in the entire league, and the Raiders are going to struggle in this hostile environment on Sunday, while the Seahawks should look comfortable following a bye with Pete Carroll as their head coach at home in front of the home crowd. But the Raiders' run defense also not great, while Seattle's rushing attack is pretty good. The Raiders are allowing 122.9 rushing yards per game, which ranks 20th in the league. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are averaging 124.3 rushing yards per game, which ranks 13th. Now, Seattle was awful running the ball against Tampa Bay. Tampa entered the season projected to be one of the best run defenses in the league. Hasn't really worked out, but they looked like it last week. The Raiders are definitely not the Buccaneers up front, and I think that you'll end up seeing Kenneth Walker have a lot of running lanes, and I think he has a shot to go for over 100 yards. But Seattle has a lot of weapons on offense with Walker, with Metcalf, with Lockett. Even the tight ends have been pretty good this season, but Geno Smith been solid this season, and I think the Raiders defense should struggle against them, while Derek Carr has been pretty good. I know Adams has been very good statistically speaking, and yet the Raiders have a hard time scoring because McDaniels is really not a good coach. But Seattle has a solid offense. They have a solid head coach off a bye against McDaniels, who is officially not the worst coach in the league because he was able to beat Nathaniel Hackett. Congratulations. But McDaniels finds a way to blow every close game. I'm not saying this game's going to be a blowout. I think Seattle probably wins this game by at least 4, maybe 4, 7, 10, something like that. But the Raiders are, once again, 1-4 straight up on the road. Only win against the Broncos, who are equally terrible, if not worse, and they're easily a bottom 5 team in the league. I think Seattle's just a better team, and they've been kind of disrespected all season long. I think it's a very good spot for Seattle to once again get themselves a nice win and to potentially keep pace with the 49ers for first place in the NFC West. But for the trends here, Seattle is 4-1 against the spread in its last 5 home games. Once again, great home field advantage against a team that's awful on the road and a team with a terrible head coach. I think Seattle looks pretty sharp off the bye. I think they get back on track after their loss to Tampa Bay in another country, and I think Seattle finds a way to win this game and cover the spreads. Play that once again here for Friday, November 25th is going to be on the Seahawks -3.5 at -110 on DraftKings. Bye, everyone.